What is going on, guys? Long time no see, unless you are completely new to who I am. I am Sara Marshall. I am the editor at musketfire.com via Fansided, and I used to have my own little stream that I would do quite frequently on my own YouTube channel for the Patriots, but I figured, why not start one for Musket Fire? So that is what we are doing today. Of course, the draft is this week. It starts on Thursday, April 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And this is a big one for the Patriots this year, which is a little exciting because I think historically in the last however many years, it really hasn't been that big of a deal in New England. So the fact that there is a lot riding on this one, I think makes it a little bit more exciting, pretty frightening if you ask me, but also very exciting. So we'll definitely be paying attention to that. Lots of updates that will be coming to musketfire.com. So don't forget, we will be posting all throughout the week and we will be active during each day of the draft. So make sure you guys check it out. Make sure you follow Musket Fire on Twitter, subscribe to the channel, do it all. We'd appreciate it. Then we can get some more streams going, and it would be really cool to see some of you guys become regulars in the chat. That would be pretty awesome. Let's grow this channel together, guys, because we're all Patriots fans, right? So I kind of am just going to go with the flow today. There's a couple things that I wanted to make sure to talk about, but we'll see how it goes. This might be a really short stream, but it is our first one and there's a lot going on this week. So we'll see how it goes. But I think because the Patriots have the third overall pick and there's just so many rumors about what exactly they're going to do with that pick, I thought it would be the best to discuss that first, because I think it's like every single day there's something else being said. We're being told, according to so-and-so sources, that the Patriots are sticking and picking and they are going to stay at number 3. Then there's another day, or even a few hours later, we're told that they're very much in on taking trade calls, considering that. It's kind of what has been going on today, actually. Mike Reese was saying they're very much in on Drake May and Jaden Daniels, or I'm sorry, Drake May and JJ McCarthy. Used to be Jaden Daniels. It is now JJ McCarthy, and that they want to stay at 3. And then there's another story that came out today. I believe it was from The Athletic, that the Patriots are taking calls from teams that are interested in trading up with them. So it really is kind of hard to determine what exactly they're going to do, but maybe that makes the draft a little bit more interesting. I don't know. So if we're going to go with some of the likeliest moves that they're going to make, they're going to stick and pick with their third overall selection. I feel like that, just based off of the information that we've been given and the seriousness of this pick, and the fact that they need a quarterback as badly as they do. We have heard Robert Kraft say that he really wants the team to take a quarterback with the third overall pick. It seems to me like their best option is probably staying and picking that quarterback. And I think the thing that has made the conversation about their potential trade down is who that quarterback will be that falls to them at 3. So we already assume that Caleb Williams is going to go first overall. That was basically confirmed the second that he was deemed the number 1 pick. And so we know he's going to go to the Bears. And the Commanders have been dealing with the same conflicting reports that the Patriots have regarding who their favorite quarterback is, because we've seen Drake May, we've seen in recent weeks it's been Jaden Daniels, then there were some talks about JJ McCarthy, just not as much as the others. So it's really going to depend, I think, on who they take at 2. The current favorite, I believe, is Jaden Daniels, despite, I think it was just a couple days ago when the Commanders had a bunch of the quarterbacks come in and have their pre-draft meeting, and Jaden Daniels was said to not be too thrilled that he was one of a few of the quarterbacks that were there, and it wasn't just a one-on-one visit. I don't know if that's true. It's all alleged. I don't know. But if there is any truth to that, then maybe there is a little bit of weirdness between the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. But if we're going to assume that is who they're going to pick, then that would mean the Patriots would have their offense with the guys that they want, or at least according to the reports, that they are really in on Drake May and JJ McCarthy. So how they're going to go about that, if that is the situation, I think it's going to be fascinating, because the rise of JJ McCarthy has been drastic, I would say. He was originally projected to be a second-round pick, and over the course of the offseason, not even after he won the championship or anything, he's just become now a top 5 quarterback, potentially now a top 3. But according to some analysts, they believe that he shouldn't be that high. So if the Patriots want him, they're going to probably have to take him, because there are teams that are reportedly wanting to trade up and potentially take him. The Vikings have been in that conversation. I believe the Broncos have been a part of that conversation as well. But that's a little bit iffy with the Broncos now, because they just traded for Zach Wilson. So they now have 3 quarterbacks on their roster. And none of them are necessarily starter worthy, but it is kind of interesting that they did make this move despite all of their conversations behind the scenes about wanting a quarterback. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see if they want to go with who has been consistently projected as a top 3 quarterback, who is Drake May, or if they want to take a risk, I guess, with JJ McCarthy, who, it just depends on who you ask, how they rank him, really. Some people believe that he's even better than Jaden, or that he's better than Drake. So, we heard the reports that Elliott Wolf was one of the leading voices pushing for JJ McCarthy behind the scenes. Hard to say if that's legit or if it was just a bunch of smoke, because, the past couple months, it's what the draft does. It brings that out in teams. They want to try and get you off of their trail and get you on somebody else. And the JJ McCarthy stuff felt like a lot of smoke, but I don't know, because Mike Reese said that JJ McCarthy was one of the quarterbacks that they liked. So, I think most fans in New England trust him and his reporting. So if we're going to go off that, then maybe he is a real prospect in New England. So if they don't do that, then another situation that they could get involved with, of course, is trading down. And the number one team that has been the trade partner in this conversation has been the Vikings. And they are a team that needs a quarterback, because they just lost Kirk Cousins in free agency, which I don't think was a significant loss for them, because they could have re-signed him to some contract, but instead he went and manipulated his way into getting a massive contract from the Falcons. So they need a quarterback, and it looked like they were loading up to do that. They looked like they were trying to increase their chances of being able to get a trade done to get into the top 3, if not the top 5, by trading with, was it the Bears? I don't remember who it was. I think it was the Bears, to get 2 number 1 pick or first round picks. So they have pick number 11 and 23. So that has been 2 of the main components in the trade package that people have been floating around regarding the Patriots and moving up to 3. So that would make the Patriots move down quite a lot. And that would mean that they are definitely out on the top 3, top 4 quarterbacks, which would be Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and JJ McCarthy. So that would resort to them probably taking a wide receiver at number 11, or an offensive tackle, or vice versa at 23. And then they would maybe be in on one of the second tier quarterbacks, which is going to be Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. It seems like they have more of an interest in Penix, given that they've met with him, I think, 3 times. And I think it was at the Combine, his pro day, and then they invited him in for a pre-draft meeting. I don't think that they've really done anything with Nix. I think they did have a conversation with him maybe at the Combine, if I remember correctly, and that's it. So it doesn't seem like they're all that interested in him. And so if they do trade down, it looks like that's the path that they're going to go, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of people are definitely in on the number 3 pick being a quarterback or bust selection. Like, it has to be a quarterback or nothing else. But at the same time, picking a quarterback is always a crapshoot, no matter if they're at the top of the draft or not. Like, we just saw news broke that Zach Wilson was traded to the Broncos, and he was a top quarterback pick in 2021. That now makes 4 of the 5 quarterbacks drafted in the top 15 picks in 2021 have now been traded. The only one surviving with their drafting team is Trevor Lawrence. So doesn't necessarily mean that just because you pick a quarterback at number 3 that they're going to be stellar, your franchise guy, the game-changing quarterback, So it could be a benefit for the Patriots to trade down and maybe take a Penix or a Nix, simply because it kind of takes the pressure off of them a little bit to succeed immediately. And a little bit off of Gerard Mayo and Elliott Wolf, because if they take a quarterback at number 3, there's a lot of pressure on them to have gotten that pick right, because you don't want to run into another Mac Jones situation where you draft a quarterback high, you put all your focus and your money and your attention into them to be the next franchise guy, and then 3 years later, you're starting all over again. So that might not be a bad idea. And the only way I think that they should go about that is obviously a ridiculously packed trade package. It has to be above and beyond like the greatest thing that we've ever seen. It has to have multiple first round picks, more so than just swapping 3 for 11 and then adding 23. There needs to be more. I don't think that offering the 11th and the 23rd and a 2025 first rounder, I don't think that's enough for the Patriots to move off of their pick. It's like that would be pretty much along the lines of what we've seen in the past with teams that have moved up from the low teens or mid-teens, pre-teens up until the top 5. But I think that if they got offered maybe 4 first rounders, that might be a little bit more difficult to turn down, especially because if you get some insurance that, for next year's draft, especially if this year doesn't pan out, maybe you draft Penix and it just doesn't work out even in his first season, then you have another first rounder to add to the one that you're already going to get next year, which allows you to either double dip in the first round, or you could do what the Vikings might be doing in this case and coupling those to trade up. So I don't think that's a bad idea. Of course, there's also been the idea of throwing in Justin Jefferson, which he would kind of account for like a first round pick on his own. So that kind of gets the Vikings off the hook for throwing in too many more picks if they don't want to do that. And I'm not against that. I mean, the Patriots are in need of a game-changing wide receiver. So if they can get it in a trade package with like 3 other first round picks or so, then I think that most people would probably be okay with that. Then there's also the idea of them potentially trading down with maybe the Giants, the Raiders, or as I already said, the Broncos. So the Giants pick at 5. Yes, at 5. And there are talks about them wanting to trade up. And so trading up from 5 to 3 would not be nearly as expensive as, trading from 11 to 3. But I would be curious to see what the Giants would be willing to offer, first of all, and what it would potentially take for the Patriots to even accept that, because it isn't a massive jump, but them, that they are not going to get a top 3 with the top 4 quarterbacks. And it could potentially get them out of the running for Marvin Harrison Jr. as well, who is the presumed top wide receiver in this year's class. So I don't know if that might be too risky of a move for them. It just really depends, I guess, on what that trade package is, but it doesn't seem like it would be as lucrative as the Vikings. And then we have the Raiders, who have also been within the conversations of trading up, and that is them. I think they're at 14. I want to say they're at 14. And Antonio Pierce has a connection to Jaden Daniels because they have worked together in the past. So he might be willing to do all that he can to trade up to get his guy. And it looks like if he can't get it done with the Commanders, At number 2, he could potentially get it done for the Patriots. But again, it depends on what is in that trade package. I think that it's going to involve multiple first-round picks. And I don't really know players that are all that interesting that are on the Raiders right now that feel like they would be willing to give them up. Like, I don't know that they would give up Devontae Adams. And to some people, and who knows, he might not even be unanimously valued that high. Adams might not even be considered a first rounder anymore. He might not be worthy of that anyway. So even if they threw him in, it might not really make up for the lack of picks that are thrown in. So I don't know. And if they can't get it done with the Commanders, that doesn't necessarily bode well for them that Jaden will be available for them at 3, because the current rumor is that the Commanders are leaning towards Jaden Daniels, which doesn't help the Raiders trying to move up with the Patriots. And then, as I said, the Broncos are another team that are looking to trade up, and they are reportedly willing to give up a king's ransom to do so, which includes multiple first-round picks and Patrick Surtain. So I kind of like the idea of adding a 24-year-old cornerback into the mix, pairing him up with Christian Gonzalez. That seems like a great idea to me. But the Broncos are in a really weird situation, and they don't have, I don't know how many picks they would throw in, because they gave up a bunch to get Russell Wilson, and then now they're eating like 80-something million in dead cap. So I don't really know how much they would be willing to give up in order to move into the top 3. And I think that their favorite, from what I believe I said this earlier, and from what I remember, they really want JJ McCarthy, and they might not need to move up to number 3 to get JJ McCarthy. They might be able to get him at 4 with the Cardinals, which I'm assuming the Cardinals are going to want to stay because they keep getting Marvin Harrison Jr. in mock drafts, or if they'll want to trade up at 5, maybe 6 with the Chargers. So I don't know. It really depends on what they're willing to give up. Sean Payton is kind of all over the place at this point. He's clearly willing to do whatever it takes to make his team better, at least what he deems the team to be better. And what I haven't really seen anything that discussed what they would potentially give up other than the rumor of them saying multiple first rounders and Patrick Surtain. Like, that's it. So I don't know if we can really include them in a potential trade down situation for the Patriots, but it is worthy of mentioning them because they have been in this conversation. So since we've been talking about wide receivers also regarding possible combinations of them with a trade down, I wanted to make sure that we talked about that today as well. This might be my last topic because this is my first stream. I don't have anybody here chatting with me, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to continue this conversation. So hopefully you guys, if you're still watching, please subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Musket Fire on Twitter. The info will be in the description box below. And we can keep this going. And I'm going to want to keep doing this throughout the off season. And then as the season starts, it'll be fun that we can kind of make this little Patriots fan community here on Musket Fire. So come chat with me. So before we end it probably today, there are a lot of rumored trades for receivers that are connected to the Patriots at this point. The main ones being Brandon Aiyuk from the 49ers, A.J. Brown from the Eagles, T. Higgins from the Bengals, and Justin Jefferson from the Vikings. We can also maybe throw in Courtland Sutton, but we'll talk about that in a second. So Brandon Aiyuk has risen to the top of the trade market for receivers. And it seems like he wants out of the Niners, mostly because they don't seem that interested in coming to an agreement on an extension with him, despite the fact that he's been like their number one receiver for the most part, because Debo's gotten hurt and whatnot. And they don't appear to be getting any closer to getting a deal done with him. So he's still available. We have Kendrick Bourne advocating for him, which kind of shocked me because they did play together in San Francisco, but I believe part of the reason that Bourne wanted to move away from San Francisco was so that he could be utilized more in an offense, which he is in New England. So it seems funny that he would then want to reunite with the guy who got more snaps and more playing time than he did. But I'm not mad at it. You know, Brandon Aiyuk in the Patriots uniform would be pretty great. I think him, Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, KJ Osborne. We also will have Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, I feel like that's a pretty good receiving core. It's not amazing necessarily, but I do think that would put them well on a good path to being a lot more of a successful offense that can actually move the ball down the field and score. So I feel that this is a trade that we could potentially see happen during the draft. I believe that Aiyuk is valued at like a second rounder. At least that's what I've seen in most people who have been discussing any teams that would be trading for him. And I think the Patriots giving up pick 34 or even a second rounder in 2025 and maybe another like a fourth or a fifth rounder for him seems fair to me. I would be totally fine with that, especially if the Patriots take a quarterback in the first round this year. If they gave up pick 34 this year for Aiyuk, that solves one issue that they were going to potentially address at 34. And then that makes pick number 68 in the third round definitely for an offensive tackle, if not trade up to get that done. Then there's AJ Brown. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that was definitely a good sign that we heard Elliott Wolf had been on the phone and had contacted the Eagles to see about AJ Brown's availability. I'm sure part of that is because of the back and forth of AJ seeming a little bit unhappy with what the Eagles had been doing or not been doing. I think that was just, somebody airing their frustrations. I don't think it necessarily had anything to do with him not wanting to be on the team. And so I would rule AJ Brown out. I don't think he's ever going to be a Patriot. I think we need to live that fantasy down. We need to just let it go. T. Higgins, I think, is still a possibility, probably the most likely possibility. The Bengals franchise tagged him, but they have not done anything from what I've seen to get a contract extension done with him. So I think the longer that gets drawn out, the more Higgins is going to want out. So I think that the Patriots could make a deal for T. Higgins in the draft. Again, maybe similar to Aiyuk for a second round pick. I think that if we had a preference, it would probably be Aiyuk, but I think that Higgins could potentially be a future Patriot. And I think Justin Jefferson, the only way that he will be in a New England uniform in 2024 is if he is a part of the trade down scenario with the Vikings, and the Vikings throw him into the mix because they feel comfortable enough with what they have in Jordan Addison and who they could potentially come out with from the draft. And they haven't been able to reach an agreement on an extension with Jefferson, who wants to be the highest paid receiver in the league. And the Patriots have that money. They have that money this year. They have that money next year. So that would be totally fine with me. He's only 24 years old. So perfect situation for all involved. Really, it just really depends on if the Vikings are willing to part with him, which would kind of look crazy, but if they really want to get the quarterback that they want, they might have to throw him in there. And then, as I said, Courtland Sutton is another name we could pay attention to. The Broncos did already trade Jerry Jeudy earlier this offseason, so it seems unlikely that Sutton would be traded because then their receivers are, I don't even know who they would be if you took out Sutton. But it seemed like Sutton was one of the ones that they were willing to part with even before they traded Jeudy, so it's possible that he would still be available. They could include him in a trade package to move up as well, so we'll have to see. But I wouldn't keep that out of my mind because I do think that Sutton could be a good receiver for the Patriots. It just depends on what the price tag would be, really. So that's all I really have for today, guys. I know it's not like a ton of information. It wasn't a really long stream, but it was my first one. So I'm just getting my feet wet again. Hopefully I'll get some more of you guys to join the chat next week so we can talk all about maybe how the Patriots did in the draft, our reactions, what we would grade them. All of this stuff will be up on musketfire.com. And don't forget to check out my interview with Patriots legend Teddy Bruschi that was posted to the channel. It's our only video so far on the channel, so it would be really great if you guys could check that out. And don't forget to subscribe. Tell all your friends, tell all your Patriots fans that you know. Subscribe to the Musket Fire channel. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please like this video, share it, do whatever you got to do to let everybody know about the Musket Fire channel. And I will see you guys next time. Go Pats!